Welcome to the Stochastic MLB Strategy Show. I'm your host, Neil Orfield. I'm here with Adam Ship My Money Scherer. You can find me on Twitter at PlayerQDFS. You can find him on Twitter at ShipMyMoneyDFS. This show is sponsored by SoRare. I just realized that countdown had the wrong sponsor on it. This show is sponsored by SoRare. We'll talk about that in a bit. While you're coming in, please do like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and hit that notification button so you can get alerts when our shows go live. Adam, we've got a 12-game MLB slate to talk about, but I really just want to talk about NBA right now. Did you watch the Wolves game at all last night?
No, I did not, and I'm also very unhappy with the result.
What? Yeah. What did you have on the Thunder? I know you wanted the Lakers to win. Why are you cheering against the Timberwolves?
Oh, I had the Thunder to win the title at 800 to 1.
Oh God. Okay. Well, I mean, you weren't going to win that bet anyway, so might as well be happy for your friends Neil and Eric, and the Timberwolves get trounced in the first round of the playoffs. Of course. I honestly, I don't hate the matchup for the Wolves with Denver. Like it's obviously tough. They're the 1 seed, but like I think they have at least have a shot with Denver. Probably like it better than Memphis, to be honest. What do you think?
I think the Wolves are one of the most underrated teams.
Yeah, I mean, I obviously agree with that too. It's tough without Jaden McDaniels. I don't know what our real shot is without. I think he's one of the most underrated players in the NBA. I am, of course, biased. I'm a homer, but I think he's a great, like one of the best on-ball defenders in the NBA. I often say he's the best, but I don't know if I truly believe that. Clearly a homer take. All right, we will jump in and we will talk about this MLB slate a little bit. And I guess we can talk about my Twins right away. We've got the Twins and the Yankees in the first game on the slate. Domingo Germán on the mound for the Yankees, Tyler Mahle for the Twins. Let's start with the pitchers. Tell me your level of interest in either of these pitchers.
Yeah, it would help if I had loaded the correct data and not gotten signed out of the Stochastic website. But it's yeah. I got confused. I forgot Mahle was on the Twins now. I was like, where are the Reds? Two decent pitchers. Tough matchup for Tyler Mahle. Domingo Germán, very hit or miss. Not the same consistency that we saw from him years ago. Not in love with either guy, with it being a 12-game slate. I do think that there's upside for both of them just based on the stuff that they have, but don't love the matchup for Mahle. Don't love Germán in general.
Okay, so probably not playing them on a 12-game slate.
I mean, I think they're playable. Like, there's definitely going to be pitchers that it's just like, okay, well, I'm staying away from that. But pulling up the top pitchers tool now that I am signed back into the site, we have Tyler Mahle pulling 10% ownership, 12% chance of being optimal. We do have 21% ownership coming into Germán, 12% chance of being optimal. So looks like he's going a little bit over-owned. I get it at the $7,500 price tag. It's just I don't really trust him all that much, especially at that ownership.
We really don't have, just looking at the top of the top pitchers tool, we don't have great pitchers on this slate at all. Seth Lugo, the number one pitcher, Steven Matz.
Right. It's kind of similar to yesterday where like the field's always going to make pitchers popular, but this isn't one of those slates where like you have Spencer Strider and there's no way around it, or you have Kevin Gausman and there's no way around it. Yeah, like it's the best available pitchers are getting a ton of ownership, but it's more so like, well, we're all just going to play this guy because he's the best of what we have instead of, because this guy's actually really good.
Yeah. Keith Woodfork says, "Oh shit, have not seen Adam in forever." Then you have not been watching many of our shows, Keith, because Adam, I think we did a show yesterday, and you've been on like every single one of the strategy shows. If you're looking for Adam content, you can find Adam content on the Stochastic channel. What, like 6 days a week?
Yeah, 2 shows a day, Monday through Friday, 1 show on Saturdays.
Yeah, so look no further than the Stochastic channel. You'll find plenty of Adam here. Also, Eric Traub says that you're on a cold streak, ain't hitting up the titty bar. Have you turned your cold streak around though by playing cash games? I mean, obviously you're not getting big hits by playing cash games, but it sounds like you've actually kind of turned it around, at least in terms of playing cash games, doing well there.
Yeah, no, I mean, I've turned it around. Like, I'm making money. I'm not making go to the strip club and spend 15 grand money anymore, but which is good, I guess.
Yeah,
I'm making money slowly, which someone with my lack of discipline needs.
Yeah, me too. I'm the same way. I don't do well with money. So yeah, but you also have a full-time job. I don't know if people know that about you. You do get paid as a full-time employee, so yeah, you're not entirely reliant on your DFS income. All right. To the bats, obviously Yankees, Twins, tough offenses. How much interest do you have in these offenses as stacks or one-offs?
I think the Twins are pretty interesting here. Only a 4 implied run total, but you are still in Yankee Stadium. Domingo Germán's pulling ownership, which makes them a little bit more interesting as well. You certainly have at least a little bit of left-handed power in this lineup with Julian leading off again. Larnax batting cleanup. You have Max Kepler back at 2,300 on FanDuel. Certainly a cheap price tag there, although he is hitting 7th. No Nick Gordon in the lineup is not ideal. But I do like Julian quite a bit leading off. He's 2,800 now on DraftKings, so still a cheap price tag there. Larnack, Kepler, both interesting one-offs as well. And then obviously Correa and Buxton are always good.
Yeah. I'm excited about this Julian guy. Seeing the home run the last time out, I had a lot of him. That was fun. Hopefully he can really putting a power bat at the one spot, kind of fun, or a potential power bat at the very least. What about the Yankees? Did you say how much interest you have there?
The Yankees just kind of always look good. Tyler Mahle is a solid pitcher. Going back to the start of last season, 24.5% strikeout percentage to righties, 167 expected ISO, 26% strikeout percentage to lefties, only a 104 expected ISO there. So actually did a little bit better job against left-handed power. But the left-handed power in this lineup, Anthony Rizzo in particular, still is going to look good in Yankee Stadium. Judge, Stanton, Torres, Cordero, all are going to look pretty good. So the Yankees look like a good stack to get to here. I have the top pitchers tool open twice now, so that's not helping with the ownership coming into the Yankees. But I do think that barring them getting a lot of ownership, they look good. We have them right now, middle of the pack, basically 3% chance of being the top stack, 2% ownership. So at that ownership, I do like them. I do think Tyler Mahle is a good pitcher, but it's still a very good Yankees lineup.
Sven Gunnarsson says hungover Adam picks are better than sober Adam picks. You don't seem hungover. You seem bright-eyed and bushy-tailed to me.
No, I was better last night.
I'm the hungover one on this stream, and I'm getting through it.
I was gonna say I'm pretty sure this is the first time I've ever done a Saturday show where I feel better than my co-host.
Yeah, you definitely feel better than I do. I obviously went to the Timberwolves game last night, stayed out a bit after the game. I was fairly responsible. I left just had one after the game drink, and then I was okay. I have a show in the morning, got to go home, and then it took me like half an hour to finally get a lift from Minneapolis to St. Paul. Not a lot of drivers apparently want to go across the cities, but I'm doing okay. I'm not like super hungover, just a little bit, and of course have the game hangover. A lot of fun. All right, four corners of this game. What's your ranking for me? The pitchers and the stacks.
This one's tough because I don't really like Armand, but he's getting the most ownership and he just at that price is playable. So I guess Armand 1, Twins 2, Yankees 3, Mahle 4. Even though in terms of talent, I think Mahle is so much better than Armand.
Yeah, it's a tough spot. That's interesting. You got the Yankees pitcher and then the Twin stack as your top two, which it makes sense to me. It's not like it's something that doesn't make any sense. Just interesting to see. All right. Anything else about this game?
Nope.
All right. The San Francisco Giants at the Detroit Tigers. Anthony DeSclafani on the mound for the Giants. Michael Lorenzen for the Tigers. What's your level of interest in the pitchers?
Neither pitcher is all that appealing. You do have a good matchup for DeSclafani. He's pulling 4% ownership, 9% chance of being a top 2 pitcher on DraftKings, but he is 8,900, so not the most appealing price tag there. On the other side, basically no interest in Lorenzen. He does have a 10% chance of being a top 2 value pitcher at 6,100, but relatively difficult matchup against the Giants. 4% chance of being a top 2 pitcher. Just not something I'm likely to get to on a slate of this size.
Arcathels is back, says they streaming this shit on AOL today. What does that mean? I'm not sure what I saw Eric say earlier that we were streaming on Twitter. I'm very confused what's going on. Is this streaming other places than usual? I don't know what's going on. What are you guys talking about? Okay. How about the bats? Giants or Tigers? What's your level of interest?
Yeah, I think the Giants look pretty good here against Lorenzen. 12% chance of being the top value stack on DraftKings stands out, in addition to being the 5th most likely team to be the top stack at 6%. Only 7% ownership coming in as well. So looking at stack score, which again, it's a metric that combines the chances of being the top value with being the top stack. The Giants are coming in second behind only the Mets against Oakland, which, is pretty self-explanatory. So I do think that the Giants look pretty good here. I don't think the ownership is particularly concerning either. As far as individual bats go, since the start of last year, Lorenzen has done a pretty good job limiting power in general. 111 expected ISO to righties, 152 to lefties. So if you're trying to single guys out, I think you're looking to left-handed bats first, which the Giants do have plenty of. Lamont Wade, Michael Conforto, Yastrzemski, Crawford, all from the left side are all going to look pretty good here. And it is a sneaky park upgrade for them as well. Detroit, not the best park for home runs, but it is an above average park for hitting. You have one of the best batter's eyes in baseball. You get harder hit balls than normal in this park. So, and then obviously it's not Giant Stadium. So it is kind of a sneaky upgrade for the Giants as well.
I saw a question about any concerns about the weather in Yankee Stadium. As far as I can tell, I don't think that there is any huge reason to be concerned.
I haven't even looked at the weather.
Yeah, I don't see any real reason. at a glance. Okay. Rank the you've done all four sides of the game, right? So you're ready to rank the Giants and Tigers four sides?
I didn't say anything specifically about the Tigers hitters. I don't love targeting Desclafani, but he does give up some power to lefties. Limited sample since last year because he's hurt, but 194 expected ISO. Going back to the start of the 2021 season, 197 expected ISO to lefties. The Tigers do have some competent lefties. Riley Green in particular. Kerry Carpenter is going to look good. Akil Baddoo's hitting sixth. So I don't love the Tigers as a stack, but I do think that there is some low-owned upside from those left-handed bats. As far as ranking the game, I think it's Giants bats 1, Tigers lefties 2, Desclafani 3, Lorenzen 4.
That was a long enough break that I was again about to look like, is Adam, did I lose him? What happened there? You can't be.
Well, it's just like, because after the Giants, it's like probably none of the above, but.
Yeah. Usually if we're doing other streams, I'm usually like, I have my co-host like somewhere on my screen where I can see them. But since we're streaming in StreamYard with me as the producer, like I have to, like, if I want to see you, I have to like go to a different screen. So I'm just talking to you rather than actually looking at you. So I was like, did he freeze? Did I lose Adam? Yeah, as Stephen Leawood says, I think it will be easier than usual to throw fastballs by Neil today in his current state. That is true. I'm a little bit slow this morning. If you're talking real fastballs, it doesn't matter what state I'm in. You can throw them by me. I can't hit a fastball. But for like metaphorical fastballs, yeah, probably a little bit easier today than usual. All right. On to the next game, the White Sox versus the Orioles. Michael Kopech on the mound for the White Sox, Kyle Gibson for the Orioles. What's your level of interest in these pitchers?
Not too much in this one either. Gibson's a solid enough real life pitcher, but not great strikeout stuff. He's also 9,400 on DraftKings, pulling less than 1% ownership, 7% chance of being a top 2 pitcher. No real interest there. Michael Kopech's pulling a little bit more at 7,300, 3% ownership, 9% chance of being a top 2 pitcher. Former very, very, very highly regarded prospect, throws hard, hasn't really put it together at the major league level yet though. Since the start of last year, only a 15% strikeout percentage to righties. Does have a 28% strikeout percentage against lefties, which is really interesting because you're going to get four of the top 6 hitters in the Orioles lineup are left-handed. But the other interesting thing here is that basically if he's not striking you out as a lefty, he's giving up power. 192 actual ISO, 220 expected ISO to left-handed hitters. So it really does set up as a spot, like Kopech has the stuff, he can pick up strikeouts, but this also is a spot the Orioles can do a lot of damage. And I don't think the strikeout stuff is enough to really override that for me. So, if you get to Kopech a little bit in large field tournaments at 3% owned, I think it's fine, but I prefer the Baltimore side.
And did you say, are you playing any Kyle Gibson at 9,400?
I doubt it. That's just such a tough price tag for somebody that doesn't get strikeouts. Like, he will work deep in the games, and the Orioles are in a position where I expect him to have a very long leash here because they've just been draining their bullpen. But at 9,400, it's just tough to roster someone in the hopes that they're going to give you 7 innings. It would be easier if you were like 7,500, 8K. You could make the innings argument, but at 9,400, I think it's pretty tough.
Yeah, definitely. And then how about bats? I mean, your Orioles, you're going to some Orioles stacks, White Sox. What's your level of interest?
Yeah, I like the Orioles here. 4 lefties in the top 6, like I said. Kopech striking them out at a high rate going back to last year, but also giving up a lot of power. So it makes them look pretty good. 7% projected ownership or aggregate ownership coming into the Orioles. 5% chance of being the top stack. So a little bit overowned, but nothing too crazy there. As far as the White Sox go, top stack percentage is about 3%. Ownership's around 4%. Gibson typically good at keeping the ball on the ground. 161 expected ISO to righties since last year, 170 to lefties. Not a ton to like in the White Sox order. If you get to a little bit of anybody 1 through 6, I think it's fine. 7 through 9 gets pretty ugly. So you could, I don't mind the White Sox, but I prefer the Orioles side.
Okay. And then can you rank all 4 sides of the game?
Yeah. Orioles hitters 1 for sure. 2 probably White Sox hitters. Then I'll say Kopech just because he's cheaper, and then Gibson.
All right, perfect. We'll move on to the next game. We'll talk St. Louis and Pittsburgh. First, I should tell you guys about our sponsor, SoRare. I'm sure a lot of you know that I'm a big fan of SoRare. I've been playing SoRare NBA for a few months now. I think it's a really, really fun way to play the game. SoRare MLB. Now we now have a sponsorship with SoRare MLB. Same deal that we had for NBA, where if you use our link, the link in the description of this video, and then purchase 5 cards on the primary market. You will get a 6th card for free. That card could be anybody, could be a superstar. You never know. It's going to be a limited card numbered to 5,000, tracked on the Ethereum blockchain. And of course, these are the cards that you use to enter competitions. And in these MLB competitions, the prizes are actually a little bit better than NBA. Kind of surprised me. They actually have cash prizes for the top placements in the contest. You can also win cards in the contest, real life experiences, a lot of fun prizes if you go and play some So Rare MLB. And it's not much, doesn't cost much up front to really set yourself up for the entire season. I said during NBA, I thought the cost, if you want to just sign up and be set to go for the whole year, would be about $1,500. I think it looks pretty similar for MLB. There are more players in your lineup, but I don't think it'll be a lot more to be able to set like literally any lineup you want all year, as long as you're willing to buy and sell throughout the year to maximize your lineup each week. It's really not a huge cost. And of course, you don't have to spend that much either. I mean, that's if you want to set yourself up for the entire year. You can also play for free. When you sign up for So Rare MLB, you actually get to choose players you want from every position to start. So you get 20 cards, I believe, right off the get-go, or however many it takes to fill a lineup. Actually, not 20, but you get to choose cards. You can choose from anybody, different than NBA, where they just give you random cards. You can choose and make a lineup right away. So highly recommend signing up for So Rare MLB. And of course, use the link in the description of this video. And if you buy 5 cards, you will get a 6th limited card for free. All right, Adam, St. Louis and Pittsburgh. We've got Steven Matz on the mound for St. Louis, Roansy Contreras for the Pirates. What's your level of interest in the pitchers?
A lot in Matt's. Only 6,900 on DraftKings. Not off to a great start this year. 2 pretty disappointing outings, but now you get a favorable matchup against the Pirates on a slate where pitching sucks. Steven Matz has struck out 26.2% of hitters since the start of last season, 3.1 xFIP. He has had power issues, allowing about 1.7 home runs per 9, but not a lot of power bats in the Pirates lineup to really worry about. 23% strikeout percentage against righties, 32% against lefties. We don't have a Pittsburgh lineup yet. It is likely to be right-handed heavy, so that drives down the Steven Matz strikeout projection a little bit. But at 6,900, you're not being that picky about exactly how many strikeouts you're going to get. 3.7 implied run total for the Pirates, 75 degrees in St. Louis, so not crazy heat or humidity or anything out there yet. Matz just looks really, really good. He is pulling a lot of ownership. He's projected to go over-owned. 16% chance of being a top 2 pitcher, 37% projected ownership, but also a 21% chance of being a top 2 value. So keep that in mind as well. It makes that ownership to top 2 percentage gap a little bit closer because you're able to get better hitters with Steven Matz as well.
Yeah, really good point. Do you see yourself getting? I guess you're not playing the large field GPP, but do you think you would end up getting above the field there on that 37%, or does that seem about right?
I think it seems about right. I would expect that I'm somewhere in there. Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of other pitchers that you can play at low ownership. Matz is clearly one of the ones that you're going to really prefer, but I would be surprised if I ended up playing like a lot more than 37%.
Yep. Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, it's still Steven Matz. It's not like it's an absolute like great stud playing against the Pirates. It's still Steven Matz. All right. What about the bats in this game? How much interest do you have in St. Louis against Roansy Contreras? Probably looks pretty good. And then the Pirates as well. What's your level of interest in these bats?
Yeah, I think the Cardinals look pretty interesting in tournaments. Only pulling 3% ownership on DraftKings, 5% chance of being the top stack. They are expensive, so only a 1% chance of being the top value. That does drive down the stack score a bit, but it's not like you have to pay up for pitching on this slate, so I don't think it should be that difficult to get the Cardinals bats. Contreras is a really talented arm, highly regarded prospect, but he's still pretty raw and trying to put things together at the major league level. Since last year, a 192 expected ISO to righties, 174 to lefties, so he's giving up some power. Hasn't shown great strikeout stuff yet either, striking out 22.5% of righties, only 16.5% of lefties. So you have Donovan and Burleson at the top of the lineup. Burleson in particular is reasonably priced. And then you just get a very good middle of the order. Jordan Walker is up to 6th, so he's going to look more appealing than normal. You don't have Wilson Contreras in the lineup, which makes the stack as a whole a little bit less appealing since you're not getting a high upside catcher like usual. But it kind of makes up for it by moving Jordan Walker up to 6 at 3,200. No Tyler O'Neill either, but you're getting Nolan Gorman hitting 5th, so that's pretty appealing. So yeah, the Cardinals look pretty good here. 5.3 implied run total and not much ownership at all.
Yeah, definitely looking good. Anytime you can get the Cardinals at low ownership, they're going to look pretty good. All right, can you rank the 4 sides of the game?
Matz, Cardinals, Contreras, Pirates.
Okay. Couple of chat items I wanted to touch on. Yeah, Noah Rosen. Yeah, we'll see if we have time at the end of the show. We're gonna go game by game, and then if we want to just touch on tiers at the end of the show, we will do it at that point. And yes, no flannel. It has been days. It is hot in Minnesota now. I don't actually wear flannel when it's hot out. Typically, I probably have a couple like short sleeve flannels, but yeah, typically I'm not wearing flannel all the time.
I had no idea. So wait, do they make short sleeve flannels or do you like just cut your own?
No, yeah, they make short sleeve. I
Okay.
mean, it's or things that look like flannels. Like I have shirts that are like have like the flannel pattern, and I
Okay.
trick people into thinking that
I'm
they're
just picturing
flannels.
like Larry, you walking around like Larry the Cable Guy now with just like a cut
Yeah,
off like flannel.
yeah. I mean, no, I don't cut off the sleeves of my flannels. I just buy the short sleeve versions, which are a little bit lighter. And then yeah, Wex of Slim says I'm very new to MLB DFS, so I'm still learning a lot, but it seems tough to choose cash game pitchers today. I think that it's actually like if you use these stochastic tools, the top two in terms of top two pitcher odds are 7,400 and 6,900. So for me, it'd probably just be Seth Lugo and Steven Matz would be my cash game pitchers. I guess Adam, you might not want to give away who your cash game since you are playing cash today, but I would probably just go to those two, unless
Yeah.
maybe they're not actually the top projected. But
I haven't built my cash lineup yet, but just like you were saying, looking at our tools, my strong assumption right now is that I end up Lugo Mats on DraftKings.
yeah, since there's no like price tag, it's just the players who I guess we have like Lugo projects the best on the entire slate. I guess if I sort by projection here, yeah, it's those two who project the best. Those two with the top two pitcher odds. So yeah, it would just be Seth Lugo and Steven Matz on DraftKings.
And on FanDuel, my assumption is that it's one of those two.
Yep. Okay. So we got through the ranking of that game. We'll move on to Toronto versus Tampa. Tampa won again, right? They're still undefeated.
No, they lost.
Oh, they did. Oh shit. Okay. I apparently was not paying attention. Well, RIP to that win streak. We got Yusei Kikuchi on the mound for Toronto, Calvin Foucher for Tampa. What's your level of interest in the pitchers?
Not much at all. A tough spot for Kikuchi, and then you have an opener. It looks like in Foucher, who I had never seen that name until now, followed by Josh Fleming, who I'm not looking to roster against the Blue Jays either.
Okay. Yeah, tough spot for either pitcher. And did you say you're not playing Kikuchi either?
No, I mean, just tough spot, tough park to pitch in. Not very good pitcher. Like he does give you strikeout upside, and that's about the extent of it. Since last year, 27.5% strikeout percentage against righties. That's good. 234 expected ISO is not 371 WOBA, expected WOBA is awful. Not really better, not too much better against lefties. 24.5% strikeout percentage there, just shy of a 200 expected ISO and 330 expected WOBA. Just not a very good pitcher in terms of limiting damage, and then he's also not that cheap today. It would be it gets a little bit different with Kikuchi, or a little bit interesting with him when you get slates where like you have really expensive SP1s you want to pay for, and then Kikuchi's like 6K, and you just like pray for more strikeouts than home runs. But at 7,900 on a slate where there's no pitching I really want to pay for anyway, I don't need to get there.
Yep, makes sense. And then the bats, obviously two tough teams, Tampa and Toronto. What's your level of interest in the bats?
A lot. Tampa Bay, third highest top stack percentage at 6.5%. Only 3% aggregate ownership coming in there as well. So they look to be going a little bit under-owned. We don't have that lineup yet, but a lot of right-handed power here. Their projected lineup actually has no lefties in it, and lefties hit Kikuchi fine, but Yandy Diaz, Wander Franco, Paredes, Rosarena, Ramirez, all from the right side. There is going to be pinch hit risk for guys at the bottom, like Taylor Walls or Vidal Brujan, because if Brandon Lau doesn't start, you have that bat waiting on the bench. But these righties at the top all have a lot of power. All are in a good park, nice park upgrade getting out of Tropicana Field, both in terms of just playing conditions and hitting, and a really good spot against Kikuchi. So I really like them. On the other side, not as appealing a matchup because you're just getting a typical shitty matchup against the Rays where I'm sure this guy starting throws hard and is going to pitch an inning or two. And then you're going to get Josh Fleming, who's a decent guy for a couple of innings. Then you're going to get the bullpen. So it's not a very appealing matchup, but it is still an appealing offense. Toronto is getting about 7.5% aggregate ownership though. 5% chance of being the top stack. So they do look to be going a little bit over owned while Tampa Bay is going a bit under owned.
Yep. I got a cue in Discord from Dr. 2-Inch asked, I'm considering pruning my pitcher pool to only contain pitchers above X ownership for larger slates. Since I only play 20 max, do you implement any similar adjustments? What are y'all's thoughts? I mean, I would say I'm not trying to play greater ownership, like even on pitchers. Like we've talked about like we are willing to embrace ownership a little bit more for pitchers. But I would say like it's still a good thing if you can find a pitcher that you like who is low owned. So I definitely wouldn't prune it based on ownership. If you wanted to prune it based on like top pitcher odds, I think that would be something that you could consider. It's not something that I do in like Fantasy Cruncher. I just set a cap on my pitchers and let it do its thing. But what do you think, Adam?
Yeah, it's not something that I do. I'm just cool with whatever my top 20 lineups that I think, whatever I think my best 20 tournament lineups are. That's what goes into my 20 max stuff when I'm playing tournaments. And I don't really care how the exposures shake out. But I agree with you. Like, I think it's a reasonable idea. It's not something I do, but I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't use ownership as my metric because, like you were saying, ideally you're getting good pitchers at low ownership.
Right.
So like you don't want to just automatically be slamming in chalk pitching. You're going to be better off using a metric either like just raw projection, top 2 pitcher percentage, some combination of the two. Something that like I would do it based on some sort of metric that revolves around how well the pitcher is likely to score as opposed to how many people are likely to play him, because how many people are likely to play him isn't like you don't want the most popular pitchers. A lot of times you're going to end up playing them just because they do end up still being the best options. But I would use a metric related to performance as opposed to ownership.
Yep, absolutely. And as Sportsbook points out, Dr. 2-Inch actually took down the 20 max yesterday. Had a big win yesterday. Yeah, so just do whatever you have been doing. Don't make that switch. Yeah, congrats on that one, Dr. 2-Inch. And also we got the boy from Cali says, thanks you guys from yesterday. NBA took down the $5 single entry. Appreciate you both. Yeah, we had a lot of big wins yesterday across both sports. I was getting blasted with a bunch of people screenshots on Twitter, which is always fun to see when we have a bunch of people winning a lot of money. Even if Adam was cheering against the Timberwolves, it's fun to see people succeeding in DFS. All right, I didn't ask you to rank those 4 sides yet. Can you do that?
Rays offense, Blue Jays offense, I guess Kikuchi, and then whoever's pitching for Tampa.
Okay.
But pretty much an offense game.
All right. We'll move on to San Diego and Milwaukee. We have Seth Lugo on the mound for San Diego, Freddie Peralta for Milwaukee. What's your level of interest?
Extremely high. Seth Lugo is very inexpensive and fully stretched out. That was, the first thing that I wanted to check this morning was, like, all right, is everybody playing a $6,900 pitcher that is going to throw 4 innings? But Lugo threw 109 pitches last time out, 93 in his first appearance against the Rockies. He's gone 7 innings and 6 innings. This is a guy that early in his career was kind of used as a starter for the Mets. Then he ended up being sort of just like a mid reliever, like ace out of the bullpen. Now he's starting for the Padres and not correctly priced. He's fully stretched out. He has good enough strikeout stuff. Going back to last year, and obviously this isn't all starts, but going back to last year, overall 22.8% strikeout percentage against righties, 28.8% against lefties, one of the highest spin rate curveballs in baseball for years now, and just not priced correctly. So very, very interested in Seth Lugo. On the other side, Freddie Peralta is one of the best strikeout pitchers on the slate. Tough matchup against the Padres. Does have a 27.2% strikeout percentage, which leads the entire slate. It's just that on this slate, it's kind of tough to want to pay up for him. But he does have the 3rd highest top 2 percentage at 13.5%. He's only pulling 7.5% ownership on DraftKings. So if you find a cheap stack that you like and it allows you to get the Peralta, that's not a bad way to go in tournaments. But typically, you're just going to end up getting better looking lineups by going to these mid range pitchers, I think.
Yep. And I was just pulling up Seth Lugo's game log. I see. So he's only pitched 2 games so far this year, but 13 innings, 12 strikeouts, 2 total earned runs in those games, and one of those in Atlanta. So not the easiest matchups.
In his starts since last year, he has a 24% strikeout percentage. Going back now to see exactly how many that is. Oh, it's just the 2 this year. So, he didn't start any games last year. He had 62 total appearances. The year before that, 46 appearances out of the bullpen, no starts. 2020, he made 7 starts for the Mets, 16 total appearances. So we don't have much starter data on him that is relevant, but he has good stuff through his first couple of starts is translated. And at this price tag, you're just not really running that much risk. If he were like 9,400, then you have to really start trying to get into like, all right, what is he actually going to look like as a starter compared to a reliever and all of that. But at 6,900, I don't really care.
Yeah, he's so cheap. And then on FanDuel, he is up at 9,200, but he also still has your top odds of being the top overall pitcher on FanDuel. So still, like as you said, still somebody you're probably considering for your cash game pitcher there as well, even at 9,200.
Yeah, I do think that on FanDuel, it's a little bit more interesting to get away from him. Like on FanDuel, he has a 7.7% chance of being the top scoring pitcher, which, like you said, is first, 19.5% ownership. But like you only have to find $600 to get to Freddie Peralta, who is getting 1/3 the ownership and has like a 5.5% chance of being the top pitcher. So there you can kind of get similar roster constructions and just go with like a lower owned Freddie Peralta or Tyler Mahle, and just hope that they win out. Whereas on DraftKings, you're making substantial sacrifices to get to those pitchers that also project a little bit worse.
Right. Yeah, it's a little bit of a different equation there. The bats in this game, San Diego, of course, one of those offenses that always looks pretty good, but they're facing Freddie Peralta here, and then of course Milwaukee and Seth Lugo. Do you have any interest in playing any bats from this game?
Not particularly. You can make the ownership case for Milwaukee, or the opposing pitcher ownership case for Milwaukee, rather, where if they light up Seth Lugo, then a lot of the field is just losing right out of the gate. But outside of that, it's not a spot that I really want to target. For the Padres, you can always make the case to play them at low ownership in tournaments because they have so many good bats. But there's nothing. I mean, they're both in the bottom 5 in terms of top stack percentage, both just shy of 2%. Neither team has a very high chance of being a top value. They look like two of the weakest stacks on the slate.
Okay, and then can you rank the 4 sides?
Lugo 1, Peralta 2. Padres and Brewers both 3.
Okay. Zion Cook says fat ass Orioles cap. Yeah, that is a thick cap that you've got there. That seems to be like that. That's the trend. I bought some hats from the XFL. Actually, I've got one right here. You know that these are called dad hats now? Like, what the hell is that? Why is this called a dad hat? This is just a hat. This is a regular hat. These hats are regular. That's like the new weird thing. These flat bills. I don't know. It doesn't work for me. You don't like, you think that these are dad hats?
Oh,
is that why everybody thought I was Greg's dad yesterday? There was a whole conversation. Somebody thought that Greg and I were related in the chat on NBA Live Before Lock yesterday. Somebody asked if we were related. And I was like, I was like, okay, I'm going to make this a joke. Like, yeah, we're cousins. Because Greg and I are like, what, maybe 4 or 5 years apart in age. And everybody's like, yeah, Neil is Greg's uncle. Neil is Greg's stepdad. And I'm like, we're close in age. Give me a break. Maybe I got to wear the flat brimmed hat so people don't think I'm so old.
And yes, Josh, it is a snapback.
Yeah, nice. It's a nice hat. Nice hat. All right, on to, so this weekend, Cleveland and Washington, probably one of the bigger weather concern spots here. I don't know what to do with that. So sometimes maybe this is a spot where you don't play the pitchers from the game. I haven't thought about it too hard how I'm going to approach this, but I guess we'll talk about our level of interest in the game first and see if we need to make any concessions here. Starting with the pitchers, Zach Plesac, Chad Kuhl, what's your level of interest?
Yeah, I was going to say the pitchers are Chad Kuhl and Zach Plesac, so I don't really give a shit about the weather.
Yep.
Plesac, 17.5% strikeout percentage since last year, 17.7%, identical 17.7% strikeout percentage for Kuhl, 1.36 home runs per 9 for Plesac, 1.7 for Kuhl. Not really a spot that I want to get to anything. If you wanted to go to Plesac at 7,700 actually, he's getting 16% ownership on DraftKings, and 6,500. I misread it, but 6,500 for Plesac, pulling 16% ownership. I get it, just because the Nats aren't a very good offense, but at 16%, I think I would rather just take my chances on some other spots that I don't like as much. For example, like it's not going to be that difficult to find $800 to get from Plesac to a $7,300 Kopech. Kopech pulling 3% ownership. Bryce Elder pulling 6% ownership. Braxton Garrett pulling 15% with a much higher, like basically double the top 2 pitcher score of Plesac. So at that current ownership, I don't really like him. I do understand why you would play him at 6,500, just because it's a bad offense that he's facing and he's cheap. But the dude's not very good, and he is getting ownership.
Okay. And then how about the bats? I mean, you said you don't have to worry about fading the pitchers because you're probably not playing the pitchers anyway. But the bats, I mean, are you maybe you have to think about it a little bit more with the bats? What's your level of interest in Cleveland and Washington?
Yeah, I'm actually interested in the bats here. Plesac gives up power. Both guys give up power, like I was saying. But since last year, a 212 expected ISO to righties for Plesac, 186 expected ISO to lefties. Not a ton of power in the Nats lineup, but you do have a cheap Dominic Smith. You have Joey Meneses that has power. Candelario's cheap. Luis Garcia's cheap. CJ Abrams has upside. So, I mean, it's a tough lineup to point to a lot of guys that you really like, but it is a pretty mediocre pitcher getting ownership. So that gives some merit to the Nats. I certainly like the other side better for Cleveland. Nearly a 5.5 implied run total against Chad Kuhl since the start of last year. 213 expected ISO to lefties for Kuhl. 201 expected ISO to righties. Just gives up a lot of power across the board. Jose Ramirez, once again, looks like one of the best plays on the slate. Stephen Kwan looks good. Josh Naylor, Andres Jimenez, Josh Bell, Will Brennan for value. It's very, very similar to the spot yesterday against Trevor Williams, where Cleveland did, relatively disappoint. You still got some decent scores from guys, but sets up again as a very good matchup for Cleveland.
Yeah, absolutely. Do a no hat stream. Kenny Wayne says no, because I'm bald as fuck. I don't want to know. Everybody else on the channel has like nice hair. I don't want to do a no hat stream.
Yeah, it just requires me to take a shower before the show, which I don't want to do.
Yeah. And yeah, I do look a lot younger without the beard. Somebody else said it is the beard. Yes, that obviously makes a difference. I actually lose a lot in terms of years when I shave.
Yeah, I'm like 22 when I shave.
Yeah. Yeah, I still like I don't look 22, but I look, probably my age. Probably my beard ages me a little bit. I just had to refresh. So give me 1 second here. Yeah, so like I guess with the weather concerns in Washington, are you factoring in the weather at all? Like, this is one of the few spots, one of the two games that I might consider factoring in weather. I think this one and Kansas City are the two games where maybe I'm going to think about it a little bit, but is it just too good of a spot where you're just going to, accept that you're going to play some Cleveland bats, or what do you think?
The way I would approach it right now, it doesn't look bad enough that I would like exit out. I think just play it and pay attention. It looks like storms are supposed to come in around the start of the game, but then also probably clear out pretty quickly. The Nats also can be a total pain in the ass with weather. But yeah, I think right now I would kind of just play it and wait and see.
Yep, makes sense. And then can you rank the four sides of the game?
Cleveland bats, Washington bats, Plesac, cool.
All right. And then I guess so. You are playing cash instead of GPPs. Are you more concerned with weather? Like, do you think you're more likely to fade in a cash game setting? Like, I'm just not going to play bats from this game, make pivots. If we get closer to the lock of the game and it's still a little bit unclear, do you think you might make pivots off of, like, if you have Jose Ramirez in your lineup at that point, would you want to make a pivot if it's still questionable there?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of just depends how questionable it is. I think, like, going in, I fully expect, like, the way things look right now, I fully expect I'll have Jose Ramirez. As it gets closer to that game, if it's just like, oh, there's way more rain in the area than we expected, then I would, get off of it. If it's a situation, the thing I think you really look out for, if it's a situation where the storms are supposed to start in like an hour and the Nats just delay the start of the game, that's when I pretty much always get off of it. When teams start going into rain delays before it rains.
Yep.
That is always a concern. But yeah, I mean, right now I would just go with it and assume they find a way to get the game in.
And you already ranked this game, right? The four sides?
Cleveland bats 1, Nats bats 2, Plesac 3, and Cool 4.
Okay. Next game here is the Mets at the A's. We've got Carlos Carrasco on the mound for the Mets, Shintaro Fujinami for the A's. What's your level of interest in the pitchers?
None in the A's pitcher, a lot in Carrasco. One of the better spots you can get going up against Oakland in Oakland, so favorable pitcher's park as well. Carrasco coming in at 8,600 on DraftKings, 0.23% ownership there. He is projected to go a bit over-owned, 9% chance of being a top 2 pitcher, but very good matchup for him. Happy to get there. Not interested whatsoever in Fujinami.
Okay. And then what about the bats in this game?
Very interested in the Mets. Good offense, not a good park, but good offense. Fujinami, clearly no real history in the major leagues, but hasn't been great out of the gate. And the Mets just have a lot of good hitters. We don't have their actual lineup yet, but assuming it's something remotely close to normal, Nimmo, Marte, Lindor, Alonso, McNeil, Kana, Vogelbach, Escobar, like, these guys can all hit. Francisco Alvarez is projected in. He's one of their top hitting prospects as well. This is a very, very deep lineup. There's a lot of different ways you can stack it. They're first in top stack score. Or in stack score and in top stack percentage. Their ownership is in line with their top stack percentage, but they also have an 8% chance of being the top value stack because they're just really not very expensive. The only 2 hitters in this lineup on DraftKings that are 5K or higher are Marte at 5K, Alonso at 5,200. You have Lindor at 4,800, Nimmo at 4,100. Everyone else in the projected lineup, so 5 through 9, is less than $4,000. So very easy team to get to, which means you can build very good lineups around them in addition to them being the most likely team to succeed.
Any concerns about the fact that it is a pitcher's park? Like, does that dampen your interest at all?
Yes, but it's factored in. Like, you have a 5.3 implied run total for the Mets. If they were facing this dude in, I don't know,
Coors,
it would be like 8. So, I mean,
yeah,
it's still, that's one of those where, like, you're kind of double counting.
Right.
If you
do factor
if
it
you
in.
ding them too hard. The one case you can make from a DFS standpoint is like the implied run total is not like you really want home runs in DFS. If the Mets score 5.5 runs on just hitting singles and doubles, like you're probably not going to be real thrilled that you played them. So you can make that case where it's like, okay, well, the implied run total is not related to home runs necessarily, but projections still are. Like projections are still factoring in where the game's being played. So when you have hitters projecting really well, it's a function of one, the Mets being likely to score a lot of runs, but two, it is still factoring in that they're going to hit fewer home runs in Oakland than they would somewhere else, and they're still projecting well.
Yep. And can you rank the 4 sides of this game?
Mets offense 1, Carrasco 2, I guess Oakland offense 3, Fujinami 4.
Okay, and Michael Betcher was asking about, about your trophy there, and I believe that is the MMA live final that you took down.
Yeah, MMA live final, technically chopped for first, and then lost the tiebreaker head to head. So if you ask Josh, I came in second, but it says champion on it. So
you got to give the trophy back. Are you going to send the trophy back? I mean, you lost in a non-MMA event, right? Or was
no? I lost an MMA head to head.
No, if they give you the trophy, you won. I mean, you got the money for it. You split the money.
Yeah. I lost the head-to-head, and I was an idiot. Like it was before sports betting was legal in Maryland, and I knew I should just like drive to Pennsylvania or Virginia because the head-to-head was worth a seat. Was for a seat worth like $40,000 or $80,000 or something. And I didn't do it. And then going into the last 2 fights, I just needed the favorite to win both fights. So it would have been so easy to just go like the hedge, put 10 grand down on the underdog. I actually texted a friend in Virginia, was like, hey, if the co-main goes my way, I need you to get down like 10 or 15 grand on whoever the dog was. He's like, yeah, sure. And as I say that, my dude's just getting pummeled in the co-main.
Oh no.
Yeah, so lost that. The dude that beat me ended up coming in second in the Tournament of Champions too for $250,000. So that's done.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, you probably would have played the same lineup. So he gets gooped. So you probably would have again. Yeah. I've actually met the dude that won that at the previous years or the first year TOC because he won the best ball championship on DraftKings.
Yeah. Cool guy.
Yeah. He's a nice guy. All right.
Still hate him, but cool guy.
Yeah. Obviously we all hate him.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Miami versus Arizona up next. Braxton Garrett on the mound for Miami. And then, man, where is this? Ryan Nelson. We got a lot of games starting at the same time. So sorry, Ryan Nelson on the mound for Arizona. What's your level of interest in these 2 pitchers?
Pretty interested in Braxton Garrett. He's just a decent arm. Good park to pitch in Miami. 3.9 implied run total for Arizona. Relatively scary lineup. Ketel Marte, Gurriel, Walker, all can certainly do some damage. But again, good park to pitch in. Garrett's just a solid enough left-handed pitcher. Since the start of last year in his starts, 24.5% strikeout percentage, 3.41 xFIP. So don't mind getting there on a pretty weak pitcher slate. 7,100 on DraftKings, pulling 15% ownership. I think I mentioned them earlier as a pivot on FanDuel. 7,700 pulling 6% ownership. That's another way you can get away from Lugo or Matz over there where they're actually more expensive than him. So I'm interested in Garrett, not particularly interested in Ryan Nelson. We have him with a 5% chance of being a top 2 pitcher. No ownership, so technically going under-owned, but he is $8,500 and just a very, very tough sell.
Okay. I see Ryan Sub says, okay, now who the hell is the guy? I don't remember. Like I want to say that his screen name is Mr. Beast, but I know that that's not right.
No,
do you remember what it is?
I can't remember.
It's like it's like something like that. It's like Mr. I want to say Mr. something, or it's
damn, I don't remember. It'll come back to me as soon as the show ends.
It's not Mr. Good Seats.
No, it's not. It's not like a guy that I'd ever really seen around.
Yeah, he's around a little bit, but I don't remember what his username is. And then
I'll pull up the MMA tournaments. I'm sure.
Okay, you'll probably find him. And then we will do the bats in this game. So
is it like Mr. Pointman or something?
Yes, it is Mr. Pointman. Yep, that's the guy. It was funny, actually funny story. So I sat at a table with him for brunch the day of the Super Bowl and was talking to him. I think it was actually his friend who didn't know. I was talking with his friend about his like DraftKings experience. And I was like, yeah, so what's your username? And he had no idea what it was. I think it was his friend and not actually Mr. Pointman. I heard Travis Petty tell the story because he was there at brunch. I heard him on a stream afterwards saying, yeah, the guy who won the best ball didn't know his screen name, but I actually think that was incorrect. So actually not that funny of a story. It was just his random friend that he brought didn't know his DraftKings username. All right, bats from this game. Miami, Arizona. What's your level of interest?
So on the Miami side, going up against Nelson, not a ton. I mean, I don't have a ton of interest in the bats on either side. It's just not a great park to hit in. Modest implied run totals. I think you go to the Marlins first. You have Jazz Chisholm projected to lead off. You have Cooper, Arias, Soler, all solid enough hitters. But Nelson, limited sample since last year. Pretty good job of limiting power. 163 expected ISO to righties, 144 to lefties. On the other side, for Arizona, Garrett has been solid against righties, 162 expected ISO, 23.2% strikeout percentage. Flat out dominant in terms of limiting production against lefties so far. 26% strikeout percentage, sub 100 expected ISO, 274 expected WOBA. So not a ton of interest in bats from either side. I think Jazz Chisholm in particular is a solid play from Miami. I think Ketel Marte, Gurriel, Walker are all solid plays from Arizona, but overall not very interested in the bats.
Okay. Josh Gillum just asked if we have an NBA show today, and I'm sure we do, but I'm making sure that's actually NBA Live Before Lock. Greg and Rinpack will be on Live Before Lock on this channel, so make sure you check that out at noon. Man, oh shit, that's coming up. All right, we gotta finish the show. I did not realize we've got an NBA show coming up immediately after that. Usually we don't have a show on the back end of this, so yeah, we're gonna fly through this game. Can you give me the four sides of Miami, Arizona?
Garrett 1, I guess Miami 2, I guess Arizona 3, Nelson 4, but definitely Garrett 1.
Okay. We'll move on. Atlanta and Kansas City. This is the second weather spot that you should keep an eye on the weather in this one. Starting with the pitchers, Bryce Elder on the mound for Atlanta, Chris Bubich, your guy for Kansas City. What's your level of interest in these pitchers?
I think Elder's pretty interesting, just not really getting ownership at 7,700, 6% projected ownership. So I like getting there. Not the best matchup with KC in terms of strikeouts, but he's just not that much worse of a pitcher than other pitchers that are getting way more ownership. On the other side, I do not intend to go to Chris Bubich today, especially at 8,100. I don't know how that salary happens ever, much less against the Braves.
Yeah. All right. So you're not playing your guy today. What about the bats on the other side?
I think Atlanta looks good. Bubich is not a very good pitcher, as I was repeatedly reminded last year. So there's a ton of upside for Atlanta. 3.5% ownership coming in, projected for a 5% chance of being the top stack. Kansas City, the lowest top stack score here, or top stack percentage against Elder. So not interested in them. You can always make a case for getting to any of like Witt, Melendez, Pasquantino, Perez, but overall as a stack, don't really like them. Do like Atlanta quite a bit though.
Okay, and then can you rank the four sides of the game?
Elder, Braves bats, Royals bats, fall off of a cliff, and find Chris Bubich.
All right, man, you're really down on him this year. I guess he let you down too many times.
Great.
Yeah. All right, moving on. Boston and the Angels. We've got Nick Pivetta on the mound for the Red Sox. Tyler Anderson for the Angels. What's your level of interest there?
Not a ton on either side. You do have some strikeouts in the Angels lineup that Pivetta could go get, but he's also relatively expensive. Anderson's even more expensive. These are both just solid enough pitchers that are in not great matchups and also really expensive.
Okay. And then what about the bats on the other side of it?
Yeah, I do think the bats look kind of interesting here. Just, getting a game in Fenway where you have a lot of power. 177 expected ISO allowed to lefties for Pivetta last year, 200 to righties. So gives it up to both sides. And you do have plenty of it for the Angels. Ward, Trout, Rendon, Renfroe, Drury, all right-handed power hitting in front of the monster. Shohei Ohtani clearly can hit it out anywhere. So the Angels look pretty good. And then on the other side, Tyler Anderson is a decent pitcher, does do a decent or pretty good job of limiting power to righties. Doesn't get a lot of strikeouts, but only a 138 expected ISO to righties since last year. I still think getting to some of the Red Sox makes sense, but I do actually prefer the Angels side from an upside standpoint.
Okay. A lot of people in chat really want you to play Bubich today. Eric Sherman says Bubich slider at least puts him above the cliff. Burt Bondi says Bubich metrics very strong with the changes he's made. We'll see if it holds up. So I really think you got to go back. You got to keep playing Bubich on every slate, Adam.
I don't want to break him. If he figured something out, good for him. I don't want to ruin
it. That's a good point. All right. Did you rank the four sides of this game?
I did not, but I would say Angels bats, Red Sox bats, whichever pitcher.
Okay,
they're the same to me.
Right. All right. The final game of the slate, I believe here we have Cincinnati and Philadelphia. Graham Ashcraft on the mound for Cincinnati. Matthew Strom for the Phillies. What's your level of interest in the pitchers?
I think Ashcraft is okay in tournaments, pulling 4% ownership, 8% chance of being a top two pitcher. He's not a great strikeout guy. He does throw really hard. He does do a good job of limiting power. 157 expected ISO to righties since last year, sub 100 to lefties. It's just as a tournament play, just someone that, doesn't give you the same strikeout rates as Seth Lugo, Steven Matz, but he's not that much worse than those guys, and he's getting 1/10 the ownership. So I don't mind getting some of that in tournaments. On the other side, Matthew Strahm, probably not gonna get there. Not sure how stretched out he is actually, because he's another reliever turned starter. 59 pitches his last time out, 61 before that. It's just kind of tough expecting him to throw 60 to 70 pitches at 7K. He does have decent strikeout stuff, or at least as a reliever had decent strikeout stuff. Good matchup against Cincinnati, but I just question how deep into the game he can go.
Okay. And then what about the bats in this one?
Not a ton of interest, but it is a good park. It is like 80 degrees. I'm kind of surprised that both teams have like a 4.8 implied run total. I think from the red side, I'd be looking to get to like a cheap Spencer Steer. Jonathan India is a high upside second baseman. Tyler Stevenson's a high upside catcher. On the Philadelphia side, Trey Turner, obviously always a good play. Kyle Schwarber looks pretty good. Not sure how much I'll stack either team, but as one-offs, they look okay. Philadelphia's pulling 7% ownership, 6% chance of being the top stack. Cincinnati, 4% ownership, 4% chance of being the top stack, 12% chance of being the top value. So kind of just neutral on both stacks. Kind of neutral on everything in this game.
Well, then it's going to be easy to rank them, right?
Yeah. I guess like Ashcraft as an SP2 on DraftKings at 4% is actually interesting to me. So I guess I'll go Ashcraft 1, Phillies 2, Reds 3, Strahm 4. I don't really know.
All right.
I don't love any of it. I don't hate any of it.
Adam, I assume you haven't done any tiers research, and we need to hand it over to the NBA show. So unless you've done tiers research, I think we're going to have to skip it. All right. Sorry, guys. Can't do tiers today. Thank you guys very much. Adam, do you have any final words?
Make sure you keep an eye on weather in those two games, the Washington game and the Atlanta game in particular. Right now, I wouldn't be avoiding them, but obviously things can change up.
Okay. Thank you, Adam. Once again, thank you, everybody, for watching. Please do like the video. Again, if you have not already liked the video, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification button so you can get alerts when the shows go live. Of course, NBA coming up immediately right now. So we are going to head out. But yeah, thanks again for watching, and we will catch you on, I think, probably Monday. Adam and I will be back. Otherwise, we'll see you sometime next week. All right. Good luck today.